Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is inspire. Let's take a look at some of the definitions or ways that we use this verb. The first way you're likely to hear inspire used is to mean to fill someone with the urge or the ability to do something. So, with this particular definition, you might think of the word motivate, right? So, someone's words, someone's behavior, something is causing someone else to want to do something or maybe even to be able to do something. A similar definition is the second one, where inspire is used to mean to influence, move, or guide. A third way we can use inspire is to mean to give rise to or bring about something. So, all of these three definitions we're looking at, I would say, are pretty closely related in that one thing is causing something else to either happen or to sort of want to happen. You should know that the verb inspire is a regular verb. To make the progressive tense, we're going to drop the E and then add ing to form inspiring. The past tense and participle forms of this verb are made by adding D, since this verb already ends in an E. Our base verb, inspire, ends in a voiced R sound. So our past tense ending is going to make a D sound. But as we make this D sound, we're not adding an extra syllable to it. So there's no id, it's just a duh sound. Okay? So the past tense and participle forms should sound like this: inspired, inspired. Okay? Now, there are a couple phrasal verbs you might hear or see with inspire. The first is inspire in. This can mean to cause someone to feel some particular emotion or to cause someone to have a particular reaction. An example of this might be the new employee's work product hasn't inspired confidence in him. Right. So here, confidence is sort of that emotion, that feeling, right? Like, I know this person's going to do a good job. I can rely on them. I can count on them to do good work. But here we've got the negative, right? So this feeling isn't being caused when we look at some of the other work this person has done already. Another phrasal verb you might hear is inspire with. This is generally being used to mean to motivate, energize, or excite someone. And so that preposition with is going to be followed by that thing you're using to cause the motivation, the energy, the excitement. Okay. An example here: the candidate inspired thousands with her passionate speeches. Okay, so that passionate speeches, right? That's our something that is causing this excitement, this energy that's being described. Now let's continue using our verb of the day in a couple different verb tenses. Today we're going to practice the simple present and the simple future. Let's start with the simple present. We use this verb tense to talk about our habits and routines. We also use it to describe facts. And the thing that I think is tricky for a lot of people in the simple present is that our form of the verb changes based on what our subject is. So, if our subject is I, you, we, or they, we're just going to use the base verb, so no special endings. However, if our subject is he, she, or it, we need to add an S to the end of the verb in the affirmative. Okay. Now, let's take a look at an example sentence here. Paralympians regularly inspire athletes and non-athletes alike. Okay. Now, Paralympians might be a new word for some language learners. Here, we're talking about extremely talented athletes who compete with some form of physical disability. And I know that word sometimes makes people uncomfortable or they might not be fond of it. I hear others of describing people as being differently abled. And I like that. That has a very positive meaning to it. So someone's vision might not be what we consider to kind of be average or we might have someone who's really not able to see at all, right? They are blind, but they compete in sports. And so they're going to compete against other people that are similarly situated, right? And so there are Olympic events for these individuals, right? And many people, both athletes and non athletes, watch these folks compete and go, wow, it, I want to do it too. It motivates them. Now let's take a look at negative simple present sentences. To do this, again, we need to pay attention to our subject. If our subject is I, you, we, or they, we're going to use do not and then the base verb. You might also hear the contraction form don't and then the base verb. Now, if our subject is he, she, or it, we'll use does not or doesn't and then the base verb. So notice we're not using kind of our form of the verb with the s here in the negative, not with either one. So an example of inspire in the negative simple present might be, while the words gun and face in the same sentence don't inspire calm feelings, the new massage gun makes people's skin feel great. Okay. I saw this sentence recently, and I thought it captured that idea of the word or the verb inspire, meaning sort of to cause a particular emotion or feeling, right? So, what this sentence is describing here is you hear the word gun, you hear the word face, right? Makes many people kind of nervous or anxious, but this there's some kind of new product here called a massage gun that people are using on their face to make their skin feel better than before. So that's how we get to the particular verb of the day. Now let's look at making yes or no questions. To do this in the simple present, again, we'll start with do or does, whichever form matches our subject, and the subject comes next, and then the base verb. So again, no S here on the end of our verb. An example of this, does his current job inspire him? Right? So it might kind of be that idea of motivate, right? You might hear of some people suggesting that their work does have this effect, motivates them, it excites them, while others are merely at their job for a paycheck. And there's no shame in that. Not every job is going to inspire. It's okay to just be focused on our basic needs. Now, let's take a look at the simple future. Today, we're going to use be, going, to, and then the base verb to make our example sentences. This form of the simple future is really common when we're discussing plans. You might hear some people use it even when they're making predictions as well. And the thing we have to pay attention to here is our subject. So the subject we have is going to dictate what form of be we use next. Okay, so as examples, right? If our subject is I'm going to use am, then going to, and the base verb. Or if my subject is he, she, or it, I'll use is, and then that structure continues. If my subjects are you, we, or they, I will use are, A-R-E, as the form of be. Let's take a look at an affirmative example. New Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson is going to inspire generations of girls, right? So there's been some exciting news in the last couple of weeks about a new Supreme Court justice being confirmed by the U.S. Senate. It's the first time a Black woman has or will, in this case, will have this particular position. And so many different people have said or written sentences similar to this, that it's going to be extremely motivating for younger children to look and see someone who looks like them serving in this very important role in our government. Now let's look at making negative simple future sentences. To do this, again, we've got to pay attention to our subject and use the right form of be that matches it. Then we're going to use not, and then going to and the base verb. You can see that in the example. The latest sales figures aren't going to inspire additional hiring. So here we're back to this kind of idea of causing something else to happen or to move forward. Finally, let's look at making a yes or no question in the simple future using be going to. To do this, we'll start with a form of be that matches our subject, and the subject comes right after that form of be. Then we're going to use going to and our base verb. An example of that might be, is this arts program going to inspire more students to be involved in their school? So sometimes as programs are being created, right, we want to know, is this going to be motivating to others? And that's what that particular question is asking. Now, let's spend a moment looking at some words and phrases that are related to our verb inspire. The first word we'll look at today is just the noun form of our word. So, inspiration, um, it can have a couple different meanings, just like our verb. The first would be the process or quality of being mentally stimulated to do or feel something. So many times this is used to talk about creativity or some creative, mentally stimulating process. So an example of this. The songwriter has enjoyed a period of inspiration. Right? So what this sentence is describing, right? Someone has had all these great ideas for new songs, right? Maybe they're writing a new song every day or several new songs each day. So for whatever reason, they have been feeling very creative, um, and they've been stimulated to write songs. A second way you might hear inspiration used is to refer to either a person or a thing that inspires. An example of this might be, he said his mother was his biggest inspiration, right? So the biggest motivator might work here. A third way you'll hear inspiration used is just to refer to some sudden or creative idea, right? So you might look at a piece of art and say, like, what an inspiration, right? How creative, how unique, how special. The next thing we're going to look at is using the word inspired, which is our past tense and participle form of the verb, but using it as an adjective. And I'm going to call out and kind of show you already here that the next thing we're going to look at is inspiring, which is our progressive form of the verb, but it can also be used as an adjective. Now, the ed and ing adjectives can sometimes be confusing. Like these might look like the same thing. So here we'll look at specific definitions, but the things I like to sort of remind my students is when we use the ed form of an adjective, many times we're talking about having a particular feeling. But when we use the ing form, we're describing the thing that causes that particular feeling. You'll see a little bit of that here. So the adjective inspired could mean we could be describing something that is of extraordinary quality, so very high quality. An example of this, the art has and I think this should be the artist, pardon, the artist has created some inspired paintings. So here I'm saying these paintings are of a very high quality. The second sentence, um, our definition here of inspired might be exhibiting creativity. So that's that idea of like having inspiration. So, an example of this, he is an inspired teacher. Right? So maybe he comes up with creative ways to get his students excited about learning, or is creative in how he teaches things so that students are able to better retain the material, right? There are many possibilities of what makes someone an inspired teacher. Now, inspiring, on the other hand, right? This is that idea of causing. So we're going to have the effect of inspiring someone, right? So we're making that other person feel motivated, might be another way to help us see that. So, an example here. This inspiring young person volunteers countless hours mentoring children. You might see stories like this in newspapers or on TV stations where a young person is doing some really cool stuff that helps others, that benefits his or her community, right? So we might look at this person and think, wow, I want to do something like that. I want to have that positive effect, right? So that's why we would call that person inspiring, right? They're causing us to feel inspired. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you have been inspired. I like to tell my students that they inspire me all the time. But again, I really appreciate you watching, and I hope you have a great day.